everyone, I just watched this video by Paul III about plugin piracy, so I just thought to myself I should make a video about that topic as well, and I will give you my top 3 pro and con arguments for and against using cracked plugins. My first argument for using cracked plugins is that you are from a third world country. Food, housing, safety. That's the most essential stuff that you need in your life. And if you cannot afford that or have struggled maintaining it, then it would be just ridiculous to expect from you that you also have to pay for some random audio software. That's just weird. I would expect you to do that. Just crack it and have fun so that you can at least have a little bit of enjoyment in between the times where you really have to struggle for your life. For example, lately I watched a video about the housing situation in some cities in South Korea where you just have like a meter or two to live and to put your entire stuff. I don't know if you can even put a computer or a laptop anywhere. Maybe you can a little bit, but you know, when housing is already that expensive that you have to live in such conditions, I'm the last person who would expect you to pay for plugins. You have to save your money to get yourself out of there. Also, we should always consider that some software is unavailable in certain countries. I've heard it from a person who lives in some country in the Middle East, for example, that certain services are not available in that country because of political reasons. In such cases, it is just not possible to obtain a legal copy of the plugin. But still, you should have the plugins so that you can, relax a little bit after a hard day, if possible. Now, reason number 2 for using a cracked plugin is when the plugin is just not available anymore. For example, if the developer goes out of business, like eMagic when it was bought by Apple, they had a really good Rhodes piano back then that I really loved. EVP73, it was a physical modeling Rhodes plugin that was extremely easy to use and it just had the most beautiful velocity steps of all time. Nothing really matches it, not even Launch Lizard. In my opinion, that's not theft because you do want to pay, you are just not able to. There are also different reasons why you might not be able to get a legal copy of a plugin working. For example, when I switched to a newer version of Cubase, they just dropped 32-bit support and I tried to copy Quadrofast V1 to the new version of Cubase, but Quadrofast V1 claimed that it is not Cubase and because of that cannot work, even though it is Cubase. So I got a cracked copy from some YouTube video and asked the Steinberg support if it's okay. They said yes, but I would say if you cannot reach out to a developer and ask them if it's okay to use a cracked copy when the legal copy did not work, even though you should be able to own it, then it should also be okay to use it because you have paid for the software and you should be able to still use it. I would say the same applies to Waves plugins because when you don't subscribe to them, then they drop support, and when something then breaks, then you just literally cannot use the plugin anymore and the support won't help you. So you should obtain a cracked copy if you still want to use the plugins. I don't, but if you do, then that would be the only option. And that brings me to my third point. If the plugin is only available as an overpriced subscription. Let's say you are willing to actually spend money on a plugin, but it's only available as a subscription. It is pretty unlikely that this subscription isn't overpriced. I have calculated that lately with Sooth. I obtained Sooth a few years ago and it costs €150. And I calculated what it would have costed as a subscription. So if we also ended up at €150, but with monthly payments. And the result from that was that it would have been something along the lines of €2 per month. You gotta see, I will still use this plugin in 5 years or 10 years. So with every new year, this value would go down. At some point, it would probably just be a few cents. This is the difference between a subscription and a normal license in total payments. So subscriptions are just massively overpaid unless there is a serious reason for that, because maybe it is a server application like some AI stuff. If there is no way to actually get a real license for a plugin, then I'm not mad about people cracking that. That's totally reasonable in my opinion. However, it is tricky, and that goes for all of the 3 reasons that I mentioned, because cracks could always contain malware. So whenever you use a crack, you can get your computer infected with some seriously damaging stuff, and I totally wanna avoid that. So even though I just mentioned a few reasons why you should be using cracks, you probably still shouldn't. And this now brings us to the 3 con arguments, so the reasons against cracks that I find most important. Reason number 1 is my favorite misconception that is often being used as an argument when this topic comes up, where people say, oh, I don't make money with music yet, so I also don't pay money for the tools. They think just because they are not successful with their music, they kind of have to balance that out on behalf of the programmers. But I think it is just an excuse to be a thief. Because first of all, if you want the world to become a better place, then you should better start with yourself, with your own moral compass. That's the least that you can do in order to make the world a better place. So if you think you should be paid for your music, then you should start to pay for your tools. And on top of that, and even more important, it is not the developer's fault that you weren't successful yet. Because making music does not depend on the tools, it depends on your creativity and a little bit of luck and a lot of other variables that will just make you successful. The plugins that you use are only a very small portion of that. People have been successful with many different plugins. There are no professional plugins. There are just plugins and people use them if they like them. Reason number 2 is that most everyday expensive suck ass. You might be wondering, how is that an argument against cracks? Rent, food, bills, doctors, medicine, repairs, whatever. It is all pretty lame shit. Audio software, however, inspiring, it is exciting, it is the thing that you really look forward to. They give you a deep connection and they make you fulfill your creative dreams. I think if there is anything in this world that really deserves being paid for, it is audio software. All the other stuff, it has to be paid, but it doesn't have so much worth as a plugin. And that's kind of funny because plugins are much cheaper. If you really think about this, there is just no way to come to the conclusion that for some reason you still should use cracks, mostly. Reason number 3, you just want to support your favorite developers. Your favorite developers are sitting at home or in their studio or whatever, thinking about new innovative ideas for plugins. And when they are doing that, they think to themselves, oh, this will take a few months to develop, so it has to be a success or else it is kind of wasted time. If your favorite developers know people will buy this stuff, then they feel more encouraged to actually spend this time, make something proper. Also, a lot of time in development is spent fixing bugs or giving support to existing customers. So these are the typical jobs where it really matters that you support the developers so that they can do these jobs very well for you. So by spending money on the developers that you find supportable, you are just doing a good thing and you are responsible for creating more cool software, indirectly, but directly enough. So in summary, sometimes piracy is necessary, but avoid piracy whenever you can.